But I wanted this week also to just not have any rules for myself, not think about how practical it would be with how many whips I would end up with. Just if I wanted a project, I would cast it on and just have the joy of a new project or a new cast on and just going where my creativity wanted to be. And that's been great. And I've ended up with a lot of projects and I've had a lot of fun. Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Oline and I'm a knitter from Norway, and welcome to my knitting podcast. Here I talk about all things knitting, my current projects, finished projects, sometimes planned projects. Sometimes I talk a bit about yarn, just anything that pops into my head while I sit here and chat with you all. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me today. If you've seen my other podcast, you might notice that this is not my usual podcast location, and that is because I am currently visiting my little sister. She has just moved to go somewhere where she can study, and me and my son are currently visiting her, just seeing her new place, her new city, and just hanging out with her a bit before school starts. So that's why I'm somewhere else. My son's also in the background, and this is a completely new location to me. I've also gotten a new phone to film with, so a lot of new things, but hopefully everything will go smoothly because I have a lot of exciting things this week. This week has been really exciting with all of the knitting I've done, so I really wanted to podcast, so I hope this goes well. But before we get into all of that, I wanted to share what I'm wearing, and today I'm wearing my first ever Blouse No1 by Myfavouritethings.knitwear. This was the blouse that sparked my obsession with the Blouse No1. I knit this in Drops Cotton Merino in their turquoise color. I think this has been discontinued, unfortunately, because it is a lovely color, especially for a summer project, and it is so amazing. I've used this so much this summer, but now that I am somewhere else that has a bit of a hotter summer, still like back home it's basically fall now, but here it's still pretty much summer, and I can tell that this might be a bit warm for this podcast. I'm already quite warm, but I wanted to wear this, and this is like my most summery knit. That's also a sweater, and I do love sweaters. It's really breezy because it's very breathable because of the fabric is quite like gapey. It's also it's not tight anywhere, which I really enjoy. I enjoy the color this has. Just everything about this was very enjoyable. It is very enjoyable. I loved knitting it up. I loved knitting it up so much that the only thing I knit for like a month was different variations of the Blouse No1. I love all the stockinette with the very simple details of the increases and all of the different kinds of increases, and this is the only one of my Blouse No1s where I actually read all of the patterns. So this is the only one of my Blouse No1s where I have every single step I'm supposed to. This has the German short rows, it has the regular raglan increases, it has the shoulder increases, and it has the regular increases again here, and it has all of the decreases. The sleeves are supposed to have the right amount of increases again. So this is my Blouse No1 that is the closest to the actual pattern, and I can really recommend it. It's been great. I also love it so much that I'm trying to get my sister to knit one for herself. She knows a bit of like very basic knitting, but she doesn't really know like left or right leaning increases, or she's not great at purling. So I thought this would be a great pattern to kind of learn some of that, and she has begun a bit, and so far she's really liking it. It is quite simple to knit up, and she also really likes the design, which helps when you're making one of your first knitting projects. I think it will be maybe her first garment, so that's really exciting. I really love Blouse No1. I recommend it to everyone. It's also great because it is on quite big needles. It's on 5mm needles, so as a beginner it also progresses quite quickly, which is really nice when you're a beginner and you kind of need a bit of constant motivation from it actually progressing. But that is kind of everything I have to say about my blouse number 1. I have talked myself to death over the blouse number 1s before, and I think we can just get into what I've been actually doing this week, and I have a lot of exciting whips to show you. This week for me has been all about casting on projects. I went into this week very mindfully knowing that that was what this week was going to be for me. I have, as I've talked a bit about, struggled with my knitting mojo, and just my creativity has been in a bit of a slump, and it has gotten better, but I wanted this week also to just not have any rules for myself, not think about how practical it would be with how many whips I would end up with. Just if I wanted a project, I would cast it on and just have the joy of a new project or a new cast on, and just going where my creativity wanted to be, and that's been great, and I've ended up with a lot of projects and I've had a lot of fun. I'm going to try to go through them from like my oldest whip to my newest, but there was a day in the middle of this where I cast on so many projects. I'm a bit unsure about the timeline on each of them, but I'm going to do my best. But first up, I didn't bring my whole wedding dress here to my sister's, but I have a bit of it because I have knit a tiny bit on the main wedding dress this week. I think I've maybe done 5 centimeters, which I'm happy with. And then I tried it on and I realized that the weight and the knitting and everything makes it so that the top doesn't really sit as tight as I would want, especially in my waist. And I've been a bit unsure about what to do with that, but I think that what I'm going to end up doing is that I've made this belt, and if it doesn't work out and doesn't make it as tight as I want it to be in the waist, it doesn't really matter because I think it's a good design element anyways. I could do some sort of elastic in the waist too in the I-cord I already have, but the main wedding dress is looking a bit like bare bones right now, except for the cables on the straps and the back and the like kind of corset back. So I'm looking to add details anyways, and I realized that for a belt I thought about a few different things. I thought about maybe doing I-cord, and I thought about just doing an elastic, but then I talked to one of my friends and she suggested doing cables, and that is what I've decided to do, and I've made this belt with cables. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I really wanted the cables on this to not be very stretchy because as I said, this is supposed to be a belt to make sure that it's quite snug around my waist, so I didn't want it to be too stretchy, which knitting very easily can be. So I have used the same yarn as my wedding dress, which is knit on 3.5 and 4mm needles, but these cables are knit on 3mm needles, and then I have an I-cord going all around it, and that I-cord is knit on 2.5mm needles, and it is still a bit stretchy, you can see, but this is like the maximum I can stretch it. So I hope that will help. I did knit it a bit shorter because I thought it would be able to stretch, and then I've also thought about, I am visiting my sister right now and she is very good at sewing, so I've thought about maybe doing some sort of fabric on the back here to make it not really stretchy at all, and then having some sort of clasps here, and then I'm unsure about what to do, if I wanted to just be plain like this or if I want to have a bit of pearls on this. But I don't know where I'm going to go with that, but this is where I've used the most of my hours that I've used on the wedding dress, and I'm really happy with this, and I feel like a lot of details of it is also starting to come together. And when I tried on my wedding dress, I only tried on the main dress of the wedding dress. I didn't try on the mohair skirt, but the main dress is getting quite long as well, and that is the shorter dress, and it was already below my knees, so that also made me a lot less stressed because I am making good progress, and now I'm also getting to the details. I really wanted to sew in pearls this week, but I didn't have any white like sewing thread, so I didn't get to it, and I'm also not really sure about the placement of them, and I thought I'd wait until I was with my sister, who, as I said, is a sewer. Is that how you say it? She sews, so I wanted to hear with her. And also we can go to a fabric store here and maybe get a white thread, but didn't get to do the pearls even though I wanted that. But that's where I am with the wedding dress. And then my next whip this week has also involved a bit of sewing, and that is the zipper sweater. I'm pretty sure I worked on this last week as well, but I hadn't gotten as far. Right now I'm done with the body. I've done the Italian bind off on the body, which I love, and I love how great the ribbing looks on this. As I said last week, I'm quite sure that this yarn, it's supposed to be Petiteknit. I'm quite sure that this isn't quite right. It's thicker than the thin Petiteknit, but it is quite thin. I still think this will be a good sweater, but I am more and more sure that this yarn isn't as thick as it's supposed to be, because I'm also using about 150 grams less of yarn than this pattern suggests to use of Petiteknit. So I think the Petiteknit I have runs longer and is thinner, but I think it will be a great layering piece for winter anyways, and it's looking really good, and my son is also really enjoying it. I, as I said, finished the body, and I've started on one sleeve just to finish the skein I was working on with the body. And since finishing the sleeve, I have not wanted to do spit splicing on it, so this is kind of where we're at. And I've also done the thing I was looking the least forward to, but the thing that always is the most pleasing to have done, and that is that I have sewn in the zipper, as you can see, and I'm really happy with it because it glides so smoothly. I've even woven in a couple of ends just around the zipper, because if there are too many ends around here, the ends can get snugged on the zipper, and then I won't know if it is because I've done the zipper a bit unevenly that it snags, or if it is the yarn. So I'm really pleased with myself on this one, that not only have I done the zipper, but I've also done a couple of ends on this one as well. I've woven in all of the ends, and there were a few because of the I-cord and everything. So really proud of myself for that. And yeah, I only have a bit of one sleeve and then the other one to go. I think that would be maybe a skein worth. But these are kind of the two projects I had last week, and then all of the other projects are new, and I'm really excited about them. But yeah, that's it for the zipper sweater as well. Did I say it was the zipper sweater? It is the zipper sweater light by Petiteknit, and I don't know the color name of the Petiteknit because I got this Petiteknit at the Sandnesgarn outlet. That's also why it is a bit off, I'm pretty sure. But those are my two old projects, and then the next project I cast on is a project that I have been waiting to cast on for quite long, and I've just been procrastinating it because I've been quite sure that I wouldn't have enough yarn to knit it up, and I was right. This is the Harald sweater by Petiteknit. I think that's what it's called. It's like the younger version of the Sunday sweater chunky, the Sunday sweater it might just be called that. I made a Sunday sweater for my friend and a Sunday sweater junior for her oldest son, and then I've been planning to make the Harald sweater for her youngest son. And I wanted to make the Sunday sweater for all of them, but the Sunday sweater junior only goes down to 4 to 5 years, and I wanted to make the size 2 to 3 for her youngest son. But I also wanted to use both the Kid Silk Ale and the Drops Air for all of them. But what I have ended up doing is that I am doing the Harald sweater, but I have tried to modify the gauge a bit, so I'm doing size 1 to 2. I maybe think I should have done the size 9 to 12 months, but I'm knitting on 5mm needles instead of 4.5, and I'm using both air and kid silk Erle, and I think it's turning out good. At least the fabric is a lot denser than the other Sunday sweaters, but the color is the same, which I'm really happy with. And when put next to the bigger brother's Sunday sweater, this looks kind of proportionally smaller, and the right size is smaller, so I think it works out. But I was right, I have ran out of yarn. This is what I have left of my last skein of Drops Air. I think I need one more skein. I just have like a centimeter more to go on the body and then the ribbing and then both sleeves. I don't know if I would need to tap into more than one other skein of air, but luckily where my sister now lives, there is a store that carries Drops yarn. This is also why I've been waiting to cast this on until now, because if I were to run out of yarn, I can easily grab it. So that's also why I've been knitting so much on this, just to see if I would need more yarn and how much more yarn I would need. This is the Harald sweater, and I love the color this has, and kind of the play between the air and the kid silk is really nice, and it makes the kid silk a much darker color, which is great. But that is the third whip I've been working on this week, and it will be amazing to finally have all 3 of these sweaters finished and be able to give them away. They've been in the works for a long time. It's just as I've been really lagging with this because I kind of knew I wouldn't have enough yarn. So that was the next thing I cast on, and then after that I'm a bit unsure what I cast on next, but I think it was this, and this is the beginning of a pair of Willums overalls for my son. I've been meaning to make him a new pair of Willums overalls for so long. I think the last pair he has was the 12 to 18 months ones, and this is the size 3 to 4 years old, so he's had I think he's had 1 winter maybe without a pair of Willums, and I've been missing them. We have had some other woolly pants, but there is something about the Willums I really love, and the overalls, they are great to wear. They make sure that you don't have any like bare skin in the winter, if the like sweater and the pants slip apart. So I am a big fan of these, and I wouldn't say they're the best to knit up, but they're fine. So far I've enjoyed it. This is maybe the most enjoyable part, and then making the second foot, of course. But when you connect them, since these are worked bottom up, I don't really like that, because you have to work the first couple of centimeters on magic loop, and me and magic loop, we're not friends. And what's worse is that since my last time using my 3mm needles, when I made the color of the zipper sweater junior I'm making, I've also lost all of my 40cm 3 cables for the 3mm. So I might have to do magic loop for the whole thing of this pants, which I'm not looking forward to, but cast this on, and I've just been working on them here and there, and they're growing quite quickly. I'm blown away that this is the length I have to knit the legs for the pants for my son now. For me, he's still my little baby. I remember when knitting legs were just like this length, and now they're so long. It's like sleeve length for an adult almost. So it's crazy how quickly he's grown up, but I'm really excited for these pants. I think they will be great, and it has been fun just casting on a lot of small projects this week. I have been doing a lot of like toddler knitting. But this is the Willums overall. I didn't mention what yarn I'm knitting it in. I'm using Drops Merino Extra Fine. This is the medium grey, I think it's called. It's this color, which I really like. For the Willums I've been making for my son throughout the years, I've kind of the first couple of months he has had a bit of different colors, but ever since like he turned 9 months, it's been either light gray Willums or darker gray Willums, which has been great because the more like mobile they get, the more messy the pants get, and having gray pants has just been great. I remember when it was like 2 months, I think he had white Willums, which I could never do now, but I think for the age he is now, grey ones will be great because you really can't see any messes on this, even if they get a bit stained. That's it for the Willums, and then I have more projects in here. I think the next project I cast on then actually was a project for myself, which I am super excited for. This project has been, I wouldn't say in the works, but I've been thinking a lot about this project for more than a year. I don't remember exactly when it came out, but I've been wanting this since I saw the first like test knitting pictures of it on Instagram, and that is the Levitate wrap. And then I've been trying to figure out the yarn to knit it in and the color, and I finally figured that out earlier this summer, but then I wanted to do summer knitting and the color I chose wasn't really a summer color, so I wanted to wait until it was more fall vibes, fall temperatures, and starting to look a lot more like fall outside. And right now where I am, it doesn't look like fall, but back home it really does. So I have finally started on my Levitate wrap, and oh my god, I am in love with it. I'm so happy with my yarn choice. I was really I wouldn't say afraid, but I was really skeptical about my yarn choice, if it was really the right yarn choice, because the original I think is more like a blow yarn held with something else or held alone. I don't know. It's Isager, the Isager. The original one is knit in Isager, and that is just too expensive for me to even consider. But I know a lot of people who had not used the original yarn has used Drops Air with Kid Silk, I think. And I decided not to do that because even though I love air, sometimes for me, after a few wears, the air gets a bit flat. It loses a bit of its fluff and puff and airiness. So I wanted something else because I want this to last me forever. So I chose to go with Drops Daisy. And I have been really on the fence because I think Drops Daisy is amazing. I've been loving knitting with it the times I've knit with it, and it is so squishy. It's non-superwash, it is merino. I love this color. This color was on sale, which also affected my decision, but it's definitely not a blow yarn. So I have been a bit like, is this going to turn out right? And then I am knitting it with Kid Silk, which I hoped would kind of fill in the gaps and make up for this not being a blow yarn. And this is what I've done. I finished the back yoke. I did this in one evening because once I got started, I could not put this down. I just had to knit on it. I also love this detail here, the shoulder detail. I think this will be even better. I don't know if I'm able to show you it, but I think this will be even better, the shoulder detail here, once I've actually picked up for shoulder, which is the next thing to do. But as I said about the yarn, it has turned out really well. As you can see, it isn't like really gappy, and I was also really afraid because, not afraid, I don't know what the proper word for it is, but worried maybe that these were not going to look great together because, as you can see, the color discrepancy is quite large. So I was worried that this was going to come through very orange and this come through very like dark red, and that you would just like see, oh, this is where this has been very protruding and this is where this has been very protruding. But in the actual fabric, they've just mixed together and made like a mix between these two in the middle. And sure, some places you can see the Kid Silk a bit better, and some places you see the Daisy a bit better, but it isn't really that noticeable when you look at it, that oh yeah, this is knit with two very differently colored yarns. And also I'm so happy with how it feels and looks, and it isn't really gapey, it feels very light. And when I started knitting with this, I was just blown away by how soft it is. It took me a bit longer to knit this back yoke just because every couple of stitches and every couple of rows I had to stop and just squish it and pet it, because I think this is the softest yarn combo I've ever worked with. This is also worked on 6mm needles, which is why it worked up so quickly, and probably what makes it so soft. I don't think it would be the same on like 4 or 5mm needles, but the combination of 6mm needles, drops daisy and drops kid silk is so soft. I would say this is even softer than air and kid silk, which is also really soft. So I can't wait to be able to wear this. I think it will feel like wearing a cloud. It's so light, it's so soft, and the color is just everything I dreamed it would be. And I was excited about this project before starting it. I've been excited for this for so long because it is a cardigan I've wanted for very long, and I am a huge fan of knitted cardigans, even though I tend to knit sweaters a lot more than cardigans. If I actually look at what I'm wearing day to day, I wear my cardigans so much. I wear cardigans even more than I wear my sweaters, honestly, because cardigans are so easy. You can slip them on, you can slip them off, you can have them open. You have a lot of choice when it comes to cardigans, and I love my cardigans. I use them a lot, so just knitting a cardigan is exciting for me, even with all of the purling. And then to knit one in this color, to knit with drops daisy, which is a dream to work with, to knit on 6mm needles, which feels so good in my hands, to have these very different colors turned into this together, to have it being so soft. It's just kind of a dream come true to work on this whole project, and the anticipation of it all, because I've been working towards this for so long, wanting it so long. It's just a dream project, and to start kind of the fall knitting for myself up with this, it's just everything is so great, and I can't stop smiling, and I just want to work on this, and I just want to work on all of my other projects, and to have a week where you just cast on all of these projects and you love working on all of them so much. And it's just been so amazing, and I can definitely say that after this week and after this project and after just working on everything that I love in that moment and then choosing to work on it in that exact moment, it has been so wonderful, and it's been a great week, and my creativity is just bubbling. I just want to cast on more. I think about things. I just keep saying it's amazing, but it's really been amazing, and I'm so happy with all of my projects and the way I've chosen to go about it this week. It's just been amazing. And when I packed to go here, I tried to pack a bit lightly because I was traveling alone with a very active toddler, but I could not leave any of these projects alone. Luckily, they are quite light, because I haven't gotten that far on them, or their big age, but I had to come here with all of them because I love all of them. I want to have them here with me. I wanted to show them to you, to just share my love for all of these projects. But I am pretty sure that that is all of my active projects this week. I think I ended up with 5: my wedding dress, the zipper sweater, the Harald sweater, the Willums, and the Levitate wrap. And then, because the week is still going, I have some more yarn with me as well. I have some more merino extra fine with me. I wanted to bring it just because I didn't want to forget my idea for this before I got to cast on. And my idea for this is to make the chunky rib pants by Jord Clothing. for my son. I don't know if I'm doing 3 or 4 or 4 to 5 year size, but I am really eager to start his fall wardrobe. And I've noticed the last couple of years, if I don't get to the pants immediately, I don't get to the pants, because sweaters and cardigans have my heart, so I gravitate towards those. So now that I am in a pant mood, I want to make these, I want to make the Willum. I'm going to do it right now while I still have the motivation. And I think the chunky rib pants in this will be nice. I have made the chunky rib pants in dark brown before, and those were also really nice. But with all kind of like texture in the knitting structure, I like to choose lighter yarns so you can actually see the texture and the structure in the knits. And I don't want to choose too light yarns because, as I said, with pants they get messy very easily, easier than sweaters even, in our experience at least. But I think this blue color is a great mix in between, like light enough to see the structure hopefully, and dark enough that stains won't be a major issue. And it's also super wash, and when I knit for my son, I knit knowing that these are pieces that's going to get used, and I would much rather they be used and have marks that show they have been used than they just sit on a shelf and have no marks from being used, no stains. So I also know that going in, so it won't be devastating if it gets obvious stains. So that's my plan. And then I also have this full bag here of yarn, because of course I couldn't just travel with my projects. I also had to travel with all the yarn needed for all of them, because I am a bit delusional with how much knitting time I'll get with a toddler. But that is it for my whips. And I have my needle with me so we can weave in ends. I haven't finished any of my projects, but I think the zipper sweater is quite close to being finished, and this has a few ends to weave in. So it would be nice to just get going on that, so it won't be so much when it's done. And also some of the other project also has ends, so I can just weave in some of the ends on my like ongoing projects. But yeah, that's it for my whips, and then we'll weave in ends. It got a bit too warm to be wearing my sweater, but I have my needle and I'm ready to weave in just a couple of ends. I'm pretty sure I won't weave in that many ends this week because I don't have a finished project, and we are visiting my sister and we want to go around and see where she lives, and it's also just really warm, so I don't want to sit here and just bake. But I'm going to weave in a couple of ends because I really like this segment and I want to keep to it and hold myself to it so I don't kind of fall off and stop weaving in ends again. And it is a big favorite of mine in the podcast as well, because I think it's really fun. I don't know what to talk about this week, but I know that time when I asked what I should talk about during this, that someone mentioned that I could talk about the animals we have, so I can touch on that just a little bit. We have one dog and we also have a cat. The dog is a bit more prominent, I think, in my vlogs because she is just more often where we are, while the cat hides and is a bit more shy and a bit more of her own lord. But the cat is originally mine. I had her for a couple of years before me and my fiancé moved in together, and the dog is his. They're both female. They were both grown females when we moved in together, so that transition has not necessarily been painless for any of them, and they're still not really great friends because, as I said, they were both adult females when they met each other, and they had their own way of looking at things, and it's a dog and a cat, so they don't go over and swear well, but they don't like each other that well, but they can coexist kind of in different rooms now, kind of peacefully. I think the cat is 7 years old and the dog is 6 years old, I think. And I don't know, the cat is just regular Norwegian cat, outdoor cat. I don't know what breed that's called. And the dog is a German Shepherd. And yeah, they're just with us when they want to. Of course, the dog wants to be with us a bit more often, but the cat as well. She was my baby before I had my son, so she has also been with me doing a lot. I think before this year that my cat actually had been out skiing more often than the dog, because my fiance didn't really go skiing before I met him, but I used to take my cat skiing. She would walk in her little, what's it called? I would have her on a leash and we would go skiing, and when she would get tired she would sit on my shoulder like a parrot. So I think she's a bit identity confused, because sometimes she thinks she's a parent and sits on my shoulder. Sometimes she thinks she's a dog when she goes on a leash, and when she tries running after, like, go play fetch, she loves to do as well. And the dog is also a bit confused sometimes, because when the cat catches mouses, the dog wants in, so they go over and they go together a lot better outside as well. Outside they can kind of play together, but inside where there are walls and not as many opportunities to kind of get away from each other, they don't really like each other. But it's been fun to see them try to get overhands, but also a bit stressful, because we also didn't live together that long before we also got our son, so there were a lot of changes for the cat and the dog the first year, but it's kind of settled down now. And well, as I said, they don't go over, they don't go, I don't know, I keep saying the Norwegian word, they don't like each other, but they just can coexist. And also helps that the cat is very like independent, and she does her own thing outside a lot, or she likes to sit on top of high things towards the ceiling, and the dog's like with us, so that solves a lot. But I've definitely noticed since we had our son that the cat has enjoyed like the toddler stage a lot more than the dog. Our dog does not really enjoy the unpredictability of a toddler, so she likes to be kind of separated from him, at least sometimes or a lot during the day, while the cat loves how unpredictable he is, and they play a lot together, and like they play hide and go seek together, or she will keep the distance like perfectly between the two, so she'll always be a step in front of him and he'll be chasing her, and she'll be loving it, because immediately if he stops chasing her she'll slow down, so he'll start again. So it's been fun to see kind of the differences between a dog and a cat, also with a baby and a toddler, because when he was a baby the dog definitely liked him better. The cat did not like a crying baby. She wanted to just be outside all of the time, wanted no part in that. So it's been fun to see how they kind of take the changes and how they handle the different stages of family life. But this is the last end I'll weave in. I don't know if that was interesting at all to hear, but I have gotten to weave in, I think I've gotten to weave in all of the ends on this zipper sweater now, which is great, because that means when it's done I'll only have to weave in one end, which will be so amazing. But yeah, that is the zipper sweater for now, and just me babbling a little bit about our cat and dog. I hope it wasn't too boring to hear about, but yeah, that's all I had this week. Now we're going to go outside and really cherish the amazing weather that's here right now. I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. If you did, please leave a like and a comment. That means the world to me. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. Bye!